to the story now because child abuse continues to be a concern. The National Association of Childcare Workers is encouraging parents to strengthen protection and teach their children how to avoid harm and stay safe. The organization says any situation in which children are neglected, abused, must be avoided and addressed. So to discuss this matter further, we are joined now by Jabulile Mazibuko from the National Association of Childcare Workers. Thank you so much, Jabulile, for your time, and a very good morning to you. I mean, it's every single year, really, especially during Child Protection Week, that we lament something that is supposed to be obvious to the adult communities about the protection of children, about the livelihoods of children, about, the safety of children. But for some odd reason, when it comes to the statistics that could release, which points to crime in this country, it's almost as though we are struggling to look after our most vulnerable, and in this case in point being our children. So where is it that we're getting it wrong? Is it simply because our walls are just too high, where children are not children of the community any longer?
We are actually losing it in hearing what children are saying on how they actually want to be protected. And I think consulting children is quite important to understand how they want to be protected, because it's our responsibilities as citizens and people that work with children to understand their voice and allow them to express themselves in situations where they need to be protected. Asking them how do you want to be protected now and beyond, because basically as the National Association of Child and Youth Care Workers, we have introduced a mapping where it actually allows children to express themselves on how they feel using drawing. And that was an opportunity for us to understand how do they want to be protected. And, children actually express themselves saying that, I want to be protected from the violence in the community. I want to be protected from sexual abuse. I want to be protected in every situation. And that opportunity has allowed us to stand here and advocate for children as their voices from the ground to up, instead of us just taking and assuming these are the issues. But hearing from children from bottom, it's actually something that is important. With our mapping opportunity that we have actually introduced to our children across the ECB Ndezikolweni, we had about 100 children that participated, and we have actually received close to 127 drawings. And from those drawings, we had children that were disclosing that I have been sexually abused, and we were able to take a stand immediately and do referrals. So I think that we need to hear the voices of the children from the ground to the top. When programs are designed, they should meet what children are actually saying.
Yeah, I definitely hear that, Jabulile, about how we need to be able to have that bottom-up approach when it comes to protecting the livelihoods of children. But then, once the children have expressed how they want to be protected, how then do we start enforcing, even in some instances, for the very same protection of children? Because it's unfortunate that kids have to display or even illustrate how they have been victims of gender-based violence, how they've been raped, how they've been physically, emotionally or otherwise abused. And once they've had this expression, the same people who are supposed to protect them turn away and turn a blind eye and don't protect them, but rather become perpetrators of their pain. So then where do we meet here? And how do we enforce, in this instance, the protection of children in South Africa? Because I think it's getting tiring to speak about one thing over and over again, the protection of children, and for some odd reason, it's not materializing enough in society.
I strongly believe that we need to work together as different stakeholders to actually ensure that we actually protect children. We have NGOs, we have government entities. We need to hold hands together and actually fight for children's protection. As we are saying that, children become, victimized by the same perpetrators. We have policies, beautiful policies that we need to ensure that applies. And if we speak to one another, we become one voice, then definitely would be able to defeat us. And, we should be having child protection committees, where we meet with different stakeholders within local areas, provincial areas, national areas, not just to speak about certain things, but just to speak about this serious matters. How do we resolve? How do we hold people accountable? Because honestly speaking, we get to fight. I get personally as a child and youth care worker, I find myself in a stakeholder where I need to say, no, this needs to be done this way. I become the voice of the child. So each and every stakeholder needs to be the voice of the child, and we should hold each other accountable. If one is not coming to part, what needs to be done? We shouldn't be sitting here and saying resources are the issue. That's why I'm unable to come and do an individual session with a child. A resource like this, let the government source out NGOs that are more accountable, that are able to do the work, and hold them accountable as well. Our monitoring and evaluation should show these things, that is it working, what's not working. We can't be having beautiful policies but still children are experiencing abuse. What's going on? So we need to stand together as stakeholders and become one voice. We cannot do this divided. We cannot do this when we still have excuses. If we hold each other accountable with what is your role, what is it that is expected, then children will be sitting in a safe environment, as they're saying that they want to be in safe environment, they want to be in safe spaces. And honestly speaking, if we do not become one voice, then we are actually defeating the purpose of children that they actually want to achieve.
And very quickly, of course, I mean, on the other side of it, it's just the notion of how we need to start and going back. Maybe we need to go back to the days where your child was just not your child. Your child was my child. So if a child is seen being involved or walking with a stranger, that I'm able to raise awareness. But somehow it looks as though even our societies have become very disenfranchised and operating as silos, where your child is no longer a child of the community. It's mind my own business. And sometimes minding my own business could be at the detriment of a child.
True. And that is actually very important. And that's what we are also emphasizing in the community, that your child is my child. And, you know, people have been scared to actually come forward and help because they become victims. But we are emphasizing, because now we have child and youth care workers in the communities, in schools, where a child could actually go directly, a member could actually seek help through the child and youth care worker and other stakeholders. And they could be actually able to stand and say, this is wrong. That's what we are actually saying most of the time, not only this during the Child Protection Week, but during the entire year, where we say we have resources, that we have stakeholders within our communities that we need to make use of, so that we are able to protect the child. If a parent sees this happening in the community, they need to voice out, because next time it could be their own child and someone else might keep quiet. But us engaging to communities, having these dialogues, having conversation with them, it actually helps them to understand that they have a responsibility. Because if you also see child abuse happening and you are not reporting it, you are also a perpetrator. You could also be arrested for that. So people need to understand that there are implications as well if you keep quiet about abuse happening, knowing but not reporting it.